Good morning, Year 10. It's PDC Terrible Tuesday. I hope you're all sitting in alphabetical order properly. Yes, you too, Kenzie. You need to be over there. Thank you very much. Sorry, Gabby. You're going to be like friend. But it's okay. It's all good. We left off last week. Well, it wasn't last week, really, was it? It was before the Easter holidays. We left off with this. I'm hoping this is easier to see. I've got a better view of the video now. We should theoretically be able to see things, even if you can't read all words on there. So don't worry about that. We'll move on. We were talking about the effects alcohol has on the body, if you remember. We talked about how it affects various organs, and I sort of left off there with these horrific images. Well, you can't really see the horrific images. Trust me, they're not nice, though. So we'll move on. How do you know if you've consumed too much alcohol, or indeed on the road to consuming too much alcohol? You could just count the units, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, that's exactly how I do it. I tend to know what the units are in a drink, and then I will count them. And when I reach too much, I'll stop. But that's not for everybody. Some people, and some situations mean you can't count the units terribly easily. So, what are the warning signs from being just very drunk to being dangerously intoxicated? Because very drunk isn't really a just thing, is it? First of all, I think you can see the list, but I'll go through as we go through. The first one is being confused. One of the things that alcohol does, it is a poison. It will start killing off brain cells, and that disrupts neural pathways. It doesn't necessarily delete memories, it doesn't necessarily harm your brain long term, but it does mean that it's harder to process things. It's that fuzzy feeling, it's that feeling that you can't quite focus. So being confused is an early sign that you might be drinking too much. This is followed closely and sometimes beforehand by a loss of coordination, the inability to, well, basically to pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time. I can't do that at the best of times, so I have no coordination, but it's one of those tests that police use to see if you're intoxicated or not. Thirdly, there's vomiting. Now, vomiting is when the alcohol has reached such a level that the body recognises the poison is dangerous and tries to expel it from the stomach. So that's the vomiting. That's why you vomit with alcohol. At that point, it's a good idea to stop drinking, because vomiting means it's got to the point where the body is recognising that it's starting to kill off healthy cells. Fourthly, seizures. The body starts to convulse because the muscles are no longer getting the right information. They're losing out on oxygen because, again, alcohol is a poison and it kills off blood cells as well, and they're not getting the oxygen they require. That is when things are getting really bad. If you're still drinking after seizures, you're doing it wrong. If you end up with irregular or slow breathing, that is less than 8 breaths a minute, again, it's because of a loss of brain function. It's because of the poison taking over the brain capacity. You can end up with blue-tinged or pale skin, and that's what I was saying before about the lack of oxygen getting to the rest of the body. It's blue tinge is skin cells beginning to die. It's red blood cells not being oxygenated. Pale skin is, of course, a lack of blood up there, so there's a lack of blood flow, and this can lead to serious problems. There's also low body temperature. As the oxygen stops passing to various parts of your organs, you stop producing core body temperature. Your body starts to shut down, it starts to cool down, it starts to, well, stop doing its normal functions. At that point, you're in serious risk of actual death. Yes, you can in fact drink yourself to death. Next one is stupor. That's being conscious but unresponsive. You won't be able to react. Other people can see you're awake, but you're unable to react to outside stimuli. You might not notice outside stimuli. That is, people like clicking in your face or touching reflex areas. It won't make a difference. At stupor levels, things are pretty bad. And the last one is unconsciousness. That's where you pass out. This is not just falling asleep. Falling asleep is where you're able to dream, your brain is still functioning. Passing out is literal unconsciousness. You will not remember it because the body literally shuts down. And at that point, things are very bad indeed, especially if you've shown any of these other signs. Now, I harp on about how the government is very keen to show alcohol as being a negative and how that tends to mean people abuse it when they get the chance. Nevertheless, I think the health and scientific risks are worth knowing. Drinking won't necessarily lead to all of these. Drinking too much absolutely will. And everyone's limit is different. There are guidelines, but they are by no means working for everybody. And that's crucial, especially when you're at home all the time, and especially when you can't go out. It's worth knowing that whatever you think you can handle, you probably need to dial it back a little bit. If you are drinking, of course. None of you should be, because it'd be against the law. Actually, you're at home, so it's not against the law right now. You can't buy it yourself. What should you do if someone you know passes out due to binge drinking? It suggests to write out a list of do's and don'ts. Here are some examples, and you can decide which ones of these work and which ones don't. Do you give them coffee? Do you try to keep them sitting up and awake? Do you let them sleep it off? Do you give them water? Do you put them under a cold shower? Do you lie them on their back? Do you check that they're breathing properly? Do you keep them warm? Do you stay with them and monitor their symptoms? Do you leave them to it? Do you walk them around, or do you buy them another drink? If you're really good, you'll pause the video at this point and you'll write down your ideas, and then we'll discuss them in a moment. However, I'm assuming you've paused. First of all, give them coffee. No, bad idea. That speeds up the heart rate and it speeds up the blood pumping. Certainly, that's, on the face of it, a good idea. Caffeine prevents the body realizing it's tired. That's about it. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean the blood is oxygenated. It doesn't mean that the body can shut down, because now the body doesn't know it's tired. You mix one stimulant with another stimulant, and the worst of both possible worlds. Do you let them sleep it off? That's, oh, I've touched my face. Shouldn't touch your face, coronavirus. Do you let them sleep it off? Well, sort of, but not in the way that implies. You don't just leave them to it. Do you try to keep them sitting up and awake? Yes, you do. The more they sit up, the more likely they are when they vomit not to choke on that vomit, which is a good thing, I think. Do you give them water? Absolutely, yes. The more water, the better. One of the things that happens with alcohol is it tries to go through the kidneys and the body tries to process it. That takes an incredible amount of water. It's reckoned about a pint of water per unit of alcohol. So more water, the better. It's why you end up with hangovers. It's a dehydration response. Do you put them under a cold shower? Weirdly, no. We talked about the loss of body temperature. So putting them under a cold shower is a bad idea. Now, if they're just very drunk, cool. If they've passed out, no. Bad idea. You could kill them. Do you lie them on their back? No, but you do lie them down in the recovery position on their side. Now, the way to do this is you lie them on their side, you put one arm out, this arm goes flat on the floor, and then you put this leg like that. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing there, like a weird dance move, but you do it on the floor. Now, the idea behind that is it keeps the airway clear. If they vomit, they don't choke on it. Also, it means they can't roll over onto their front, and because you've laid them that way, they're unlikely to roll onto their back. So the recovery position is the way to go. Do not lie them on their back. That will end up with potential choking and death. Do you check they're breathing properly? Well, obviously, duh. Make sure the airways are clear. These people could be they're passing out due to binge drinking. They could be close to death. That's the last thing you want. Do you keep them warm? Yes. We talked about the loss of core temperature. We talked about the pale skin. We talked about the blue tinge skin. One thing you can do to prevent that being a problem is keeping the body warm, therefore allowing the blood to rise to the surface without the body fearing it's going to lose the body temperature, and that's what it will do, and that actually can help. Do you stay with them and monitor the symptoms? Of course you won't do that. Do you leave them to it, which is an obvious don't? Yes, I know. Do you walk them around? Surprisingly, yeah. If you can keep them awake, if you can keep them upright, if you can move them around, that will actually improve their condition. I mean, within reason. But yeah, walking around will actually make sure that they don't pass out, will actually make sure they don't reach unconsciousness, and can help them vomit. Do you buy them another drink? Unless it's water, and really you want to get that for free. No, of course not. That would be ridiculous. Of course you didn't put that as a do. I don't even know why it's on the list. Anywho, what are the social risks of drinking too much alcohol? Well, these images show it. I don't know how easy they are to see. There's a person passed out in their kitchen with a bunch of wine bottles. All the memes tell me this is happening a lot. There's fighting in the street. I guess that's less likely now with social distancing. Dangerous romantic hookups. You don't really want to end up with the wrong person. Boy or girl, I don't judge. Some people are, we just got to get over it. But making decisions about romantic entanglements while intoxicated, probably not the best idea. let's face it, half of us don't make the right decisions when we're fully compos mentis. Sorry, Libby. Look at the word compos mentis, I mean, goodness me, I wasn't steady on. Also, you can actually, well, yeah, you can end up in hospital, and given the situation, you don't really want to do that. Also, people can nick your stuff. It's literally someone taking their car keys whilst presumably they're passed out because of, I'm assuming, whiskey. I don't really know. I know I'm an adult, but my understanding of drink is limited at best. So, what are the social risks, and how do you, what are the possible consequences? There's a chart here. I think I'll have attached that to the work by the time you've seen this video. So, reasons why you're more likely, reasons why more likely if you, reasons why this is more likely if you've been binge drinking, and then the possible consequences of those risks. So we've got several risks here. Alcohol poisoning, having a fight, having sex without using protection, some would say having sex full stop, having sex with a stranger, could be a problem, drink driving, getting abandoned, being left alone and not knowing where you are, having an accident, for example, when crossing a road. Remember, that is, well, it was the highest cause of death for people your age. I think it still is. And the idea is, you write in this column why that's more likely when you've been binge drinking, and in this one, the possible consequences of these particular risks if you take them. It doesn't take a genius to figure that one out. At this point, however, I'm aware this video's gone on for a little bit. I hope you're having a good Tuesday. I hope you're all making good choices at home. I hope you're all staying at home. Obviously not staying indoors. It's lovely weather. Get out there, have some fun. If you've got a garden, fantastic. And if you don't, you've got an hour's exercise. Use it. I am missing you. You are missed at this place. It's pretty weird giving a lesson to a camera. Can't say I'm not enjoying it though. So stay safe, a hearty stay at home, and have a lovely day, Year 10, and I'll see you in the flip side.